Aloha, everybody. We are here to talk to you guys about who controls your income. My name is Zasha Smith. Along with my partner, Emma Powell, we are Rise Capital Investments. And we want to kind of dive deep into this subject because we came both from working W-2s and now full-time into commercial real estate, created financial freedom and some other opportunities for ourselves through this entrepreneurial journey. So for our agenda for today, we will be talking about our fund. We are Rise Capital Investments, a private debt and equity fund specializing in commercial real estate projects. We'll describe what passive investing is, kind of other streams of income, because we want the focus not only to be on one stream, but multiple streams and help you create that, the tax benefits, accredited investor process, diversification, and how you can get started if you haven't, or how you can potentially invest with us and look at other opportunities as well. So my partner, Emma, take it away. Emma, you're muted.
Of course I'm muted. I was talking. That's always a fun one. I'm actually really excited about this topic because this is one that's really near and dear to my heart. Is our big reason why behind we're doing the journey that we've gone on over the last 5 years to really transition out of the W-2. My husband was working, I was investing full time, and then he just recently left his job, and we are just in the early stages of, if you're familiar with the FIRE movement, Financial Independence Retire Early, where we just left the job. We're now part-time retired, part-time self-employed, and just continue to grow that portfolio of passive income. And I just really want to talk to others about how you can get more control over your income so that you can control when and where you work. Do you want a job or do you want a hobby? Do you want to volunteer? When do you want to retire? How do you want to retire? And just making those kinds of decisions, because you have the freedom after you're adding more streams of income. So passive investing, basically, it has a lot of different meanings, and people, it's a loaded term. It doesn't really ever passive because you have to do work on the front end to be able to make that income passively. So when I'm thinking about it, it's like, what can I set in motion to be able to make money while I sleep? You know, poor people work for money, but rich people have money work for them. In order to get additional streams of income where you're not actively working, you need to have money to invest so that you can get that money working for you. And so we're going to talk about all the different types of income you can have and how you put that into different buckets and diversify that so that you can really build your passive stream of income. And then my favorite, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. And that's what retirement is all about. We've just had this notion in our heads that retirement is at 65 on some index funds that are offered through maybe a stock plan at work. And that's kind of how everybody thinks about it. We want to blow that definition up a little bit so that you have more freedom and more choices in deciding how and when you want to retire, that looks like. And passive income is really important because when you stop working actively, you really do need to have some income still coming in. And so planting those seeds early is really important because it does take time. It is definitely a process. So I wanted to just go over the different kinds of income we're going to talk about tonight. The active, that's the most obvious one. That's your job. It might be times 2 if you have a partner, or it might be a business. Like what my husband had a job at a W-2 and I was running a business. I wasn't pulling any money out of the business. We were just using that to invest. But you kind of have to think, like, if one or both of us were to lose our job, what are our options? Like, what does that panic of a layoff or getting fired look like? Because maybe you both have a job and only one lost the job, but then your income's almost cut in half, depending on who makes more. But a huge income slice when somebody loses a job, and it's a little bit of a panic because you may not have some of these other forms of income coming in. So in residual, that's where you do something and you set something up that you can continue to get money off of that as it goes. I think this one is, in my opinion, actually a little bit more difficult because it's usually things like royalties from a book or some music that you've written. If you've got a patent or some intellectual property that's continuing to pay you, it's something that you have to invent and you have to create. And we all know, if we've written a book or author, that sometimes it doesn't really make that much money. And it does take some time to get it set up. And then occasionally you have to go in and babysit it. So I used to teach online courses, and they were pretty much self-running for the most part, but once a week or twice a week, I had to check in with my students. And then once every year or so, I had to update the course or do an overhaul because the information was outdated. It was a technical course. And so it was residual, yes, but it wasn't fully passive. So if you have something that you can sell or create or do or make residual income from, that's great. Some of us do, some of us don't. One thing that we can all do for residual income is rental income. And I know a lot of people want me to put that in the passive one because the government calls that passive income as far as your taxes go. But that's something that you do have to do a lot of work on the front end to get it set up, to get it leased up, and then occasionally you have to go back in and keep it running because something's broken or somebody moves out and you have to fill a vacancy. Even with a property manager, you need to meet with that property manager and make sure that the properties are doing well. So I put the rental income in the residual bracket, and for me, that's the easiest type of residual income that makes the most amount of money and is most worth my time. And then in passive income, we're really focusing on distributions of dividends. You're going to be a limited partner. It's like being a shareholder or buying a stock in a company. So you put money in, all you do on the front end is the due diligence on the team, on the property, on the investment itself. And once you put your money in, you do no more work. You are trusting the team that you put it with, that they're experienced and they're going to be able to run that investment or run that property. And you are limited from a maximum amount of losses can only be the money that you invested. You're never going to get sued or be involved in any of that kind of stuff. It really is quite passive once you've done the original due diligence. And then you can also have interest on notes and deposits, things like that, like if you've sold a house on a seller financing note or any other types of interest. So what we're really focusing on today are the distributions from commercial real estate rental income. So if you have any questions, go ahead and pop them in the chat on any of the terms that we're talking about. If there's anything new or you want to just add to that, go ahead and put it in the chat and we'll address it as we move along. All right, Zasha.
So next we'll talk about passive income as a process. Now, you just can't quit your job tomorrow and think that all this passive income is going to come in. It definitely has the potential to replace your work income, but like it says here, it is a process. You work for your money, you start investing your earned income that then in turns into passive income. So to do this, you have to really think about what your goals are. Set a timeline. Think about how much income you need a month. For me, I was working as a civil engineer and $5K a month did well for me, but would it allow me to then also take vacations or live the lifestyle that I wanted on top of that? I had to also think ahead to inflation, right? You can set a goal for now, but it still has to be accruing over the years because it will change as things go along. And so really, I think the biggest thing on this is like taking action, especially while you're working or while you have some active income, setting it aside or starting to invest in these more passive streams because those will in turn take care of you in the end and help you to retire early. And it is slow to start, but it depends on how much you put in the beginning. So I think Emma had talked about, in her situation, what her and Troy went through. So maybe you can hit on that a little bit more.
Yeah, so backing into your goals is really important here. I actually had a great conversation with my sister about this today because her husband is working even though he doesn't have to, and she calls it his job hobby because he's like, I don't really want to quit. We could. And so she was saying, like, at what point do you consider retirement? Because we considered retirement, we're going to slash our expenses dramatically. We're going to slash our living expenses so that we can retire earlier. And then what happened because of that, we were able to leave the job sooner than somebody who's looking to maintain their current level of lifestyle. And so she was talking about how they are wanting to maintain that lifestyle. And so it's just going to take them longer. And I was like, no, I want to do this right away. And so we're going to slash our lifestyle. So that's part of figuring out what your goals are, what you're willing to do, the lifestyle that you're wanting to not only have someday, but also what are you willing to do for lifestyle right now? And so my choices are going to look very different than your choices. And so if you're looking at this as a continuum here, when you have 100% of your income in the red box, meaning that you're working for money, when we left, we had 100% passive income and zero active income, but it was only about half of what we were making in the W-2. And so for us, it was like, okay, well, now we are in the middle of the scale here, but we don't have any active income. And so I'm thinking, all right, so we're retired because our passive income covers our bills, but what else does it cover? It's kind of like what Zasha was saying. Is it enough to take vacations? Is it enough to live the lifestyle that you want? And so we're continuing to say, okay, we want to invest more, so we're not just paying our bills. So we're going to continue to have a side hustle or a job or start a business or something so that we can continue to build that up until we get to the 100% replacement in the blue as the last stage. And so if you're somewhere in the middle stage, maybe you have some passive income or residual income because you have a rental or you have something like that, you have to think about like, how much money do I need to retire, not work, and maintain the lifestyle that I want? So where we are right now, I kind of call it semi-retirement, because we definitely have slashed our lifestyle dramatically in order to be able to go out and have more time freedom in our business. So backing into your goals, how much do you need? What kind of return does that need to spin off? And how many years do you have in order to carry out that plan? And that's going to be different for everybody. So if you want a little bit of help figuring out how to back into that plan, just jump on a call with us. We can walk you through the process that we did and kind of help you figure out how much you need and how long you have for that. I think that this is the most important part of this process, because as the Cheshire Cat says, if you don't know where you're going, then any direction you go will get you there. And so starting out with some strong goals is really vital to this process. So the other thing, just choosing a date and just getting started rather than analysis paralysis. I don't know what to invest in. If you have a chunk of cash to invest, sometimes the best thing to do is just go out and do some test investments, do the minimum, try a couple of different operators, try a couple of different properties, maybe something that has a shorter term so you can keep an eye on it, but just do something so that you can get started, because you're never going to get to the end process past the middle until you get started. I wanted to share a couple of case studies. I'll let Zasha tell her story. So I'm going to start out with our CEO, Chris and Harmony. They were living in Hawaii and he was working as a CEO in a large company, and he was never home. He basically spent years commuting back and forth between the island where he worked and the island where he lived. And he got to the point where he's just like, I can't continue to do this anymore. He was making great money, the golden handcuffs, and decided to just walk away from that and move to the mainland because their kids were moving to the mainland and they wanted to be closer to their kids. And so coming in and saying like, well, what are we going to do for income? Because they both they didn't just quit their jobs. They up and moved literally across an ocean. And so it wasn't like that they could just keep doing what they're doing. And so they just dove into real estate investing. They started doing lending for offering debt notes to other people and just building up that side of their business so that they could walk away from the job and have more control over their freedom and become self-employed. Then you get to choose, like, how much are you going to live on passive income and how much do you want to have a mission-driven business or volunteer philanthropy type of thing. And right now, I think it's really cool to just kind of watch how they have really built up the side of their business so that they can help others learn to do what they did, because they could be retiring off of basically, their passive income. But they've chosen instead to help others learn how to invest in real estate because they're busy and they don't really want to sit on a beach and retire. They're from Hawaii. Who cares about beaches, right? So, Zasha, do you want to share your story and then I'll go into mine?
Of course, yeah. And for me, I was working as a civil engineer for 10 years, very comfortable at my job, but also just really working way too much. I was working 60 to 70-hour weeks in charge of huge, multi-million-dollar projects as far as hotel renovations, subdivisions, and designing underground utilities for shopping centers. And so I had to project manage a lot, and there was a lot of, people dependent on me. And I always felt bad, even just to ask for a vacation. Like I, whatever I do, I put my all into, and so that catapulted me into investing a lot of my time there. But at the end of the day, it was, a realization came to me that, why am I doing this? Why am I spending all my time with my coworkers and no real time with my family? And I'm always tired. So started investing into real estate just to figure out, what else was out there, what else I could do to replace my income. Started fixing and flipping. Made a good amount of money, and then started buying rentals because my CPA told me, hello, you're going to have to pay a lot of taxes. And so started that, and then found out that through Chris and Harmony that I could more passively invest through these bigger syndication deals. And for me, I had never thought about it before, and I had a totally different idea of how it all worked. I thought just a bunch of people get together, they keep that apartment building forever, but now I know that's not the case. But working together with Chris and Emma and Lais and Raquel and their other halves have definitely made me realize that this is definitely a team effort. And for me, coming from a background of like always kind of having to depend on myself, it's nice to have a team that we can also rely on and get things done. And so, yeah, that's where my goal is, to be completely passive in the end, and being a part of these webinars and just touching base and networking with other people that have already done it truly lets me know, okay, it is possible, but you got to take the right steps to do it and invest with the, the right partners and operators.
And for Troy B, it was really important that we were both walking away from a 9-to-5. We really wanted location freedom and time freedom. And he made a comment once where I was looking at scaling up my apartment investing business, because it's a business. It's not really investing. You're running a business when you've got properties that you're actively managing. And I was talking about scaling that up, and he said, that's not passive income, that's running a business. And he said, and then if I can quit my job because you can replace my income, then we'll just replace my job with your job. And so that goal became that we could both leave our active income jobs. And that was very important to me. And so I feel like that allows us the time that we need to build the business that we really are passionate about, and helping other people learn how to do the same thing. And so for us, it's like we really needed to walk away and have total control and freedom over what we were doing, where we were living. And it's exciting to be building something where every dollar that comes in, we don't have to devote to living expenses. I mean, like I said, things are really stripped back and really bare, very lean right now, but it's like every new dollar that comes in goes right back out to be invested. And so really what we're looking at here is that we earn active income dollars, we invest 100% of those dollars in order to be able to live off the backs of the dividends and the distributions. And we're continuing to build up that passive income stream. And so for us, that excitement of building that is really rewarding. It's more rewarding than anything we've done, even for an impact-driven company that we've worked for, because we felt purpose-driven and we're really helping to build that company and build that purpose. But working on our own purpose has been far more fulfilling, because we get to choose exactly what that is at any given time, and then share and teach others how to do it, because that's really what that we're excited about. And so that's kind of our journey, where we are out of the W-2, semi-retired, still in the building phases, and then teaching our kids and other people and other people's kids how to do this so that they can start a little bit earlier than we did. I always say the sooner you get started, the sooner you can say, I wish I'd gotten started sooner. All right, just wanted to go over passive income and how it being powered by commercial real estate is a little bit different. Basically what it is investing in things that will bring you wealth building. You can choose early retirement. You can have time freedom, location freedom, lifestyle design. But like we said, this is a process, which is why we're choosing the icon, where on one side, on the financial freedom, they're looking at their laptops, they're deciding what they're going to invest in. They may be even having a good time doing it, like kind of like what we're doing. But on the other side is where the payoff comes. We all can't sit on a beach all the time. We do need to kind of manage these things. And the concept of going up a stair step and making progress, it's really important to have a clear vision of expectations of what it's going to take, how long it's going to take, because that helps you really enjoy the journey and be having a lot of fun. So commercial real estate itself, from just a pure raw definition, it is any property that is not a residential home. So a single family up to a 4-family or 4-plex is considered residential. It comes under residential lending and residential lending rules. But anything else, 5+ units of multifamily or all the other buildings out there, fall into commercial real estate. Now, where our niche is multifamily real estate and value add, but we also do debt offerings for smaller projects so that the money will turn around a little bit quicker, where we're lending on faster projects, and we'll get more into that later. But basically, it means that there's income derived from that building because you're leasing it out. The value of it is determined by how much rent you can get. And so if your similar building to your neighbor is renting for more money, your house is going to be worth more. Think of it as 2 houses that are being sold, it's 2 single-family houses, and one of you has an updated kitchen and the other doesn't have an updated kitchen. The one with the updated kitchen is going to be worth more than the one without. So you have all of these things that you can compare in commercial properties, the age of the building, the condition of the building, all the same as with single family houses, but you have an extra component of how much income that property derives. And so things that can drive up the value are all the same things in a single family home with the addition of adding rent into it that can push the value up. So it gives you a lot of control over what your property is worth because you can control the condition of it and also the income that it generates. So it is influenced by the economy, interest rates, supply and demand, and basically what your neighbors are doing. So you do still have comps, but you have just added variables that you have more control over what that property is worth. And like I said, any questions on commercial real estate or definitions of passive income or the definition of retirement, because that's kind of a loaded word as well, go ahead and put it in the chat and we will answer those as we go along. All right, Zasha, take it away.
And one of the highest and most valuable, I guess, things about investing in the commercial real estate is really the tax benefits. That's where it differentiates itself from a lot of different types of investments. I was just at a conference a few weeks ago, and there was a bunch of stock investors and crypto guys, and they were there to learn about real estate because they realized that a lot of these, even though they're making a lot of money in these other sorts of investment vehicles, it really, the taxes that they had to pay kind of didn't really make sense. And so them being there really kind of opened their eyes to, even on the syndication part, getting that equity in the tax benefits. So you get to keep more of your earnings. You can reinvest into other opportunities. And there's different cycles of investments. So even for me, last year, I invested in 4 different 100 to 200 unit syndication deals, so apartment deals, and I will be getting distributions back at different times. And then so for me, that secures like more of a consistent income if you kind of do it over time. And so, like I mentioned before, some highlights, especially because I also have active income from my flipping projects. I'll be able to depreciate a lot of that income, carry over the passive losses, lower capital gains. Oh, did you want to mention something? And then you also have certain deductions as well. So as always, consult your CPA and your bookkeeper and your financial team about what's the best for you and your situation. But for me, being an active flipper, this was a no-brainer as far as getting into something and not trying to, I own rental properties on my own, single family and small multi, but I didn't want the added responsibility of adding onto my portfolio right now or trying to find a good deal that made sense with the high interest rates as well.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I want to share a quick story about my experience when my husband was still working at W-2. So Zasha and I are real estate professionals, meaning that we spend 750 hours a year working on real estate investing projects that we're generating passive income off of. And what that does is all of those losses from the depreciation are unlimited. So we don't have to carry forward our losses. You max out one year and you carry it forward and they're just piling up. You can't really use them because you're maxing out every year. If you have somebody in the partnership, when you're filing a joint tax return, who's a real estate professional, you can take those losses unlimited against not only your passive income, but also your active income. So I was able to take my husband's W-2 income and offset his income with our depreciation in an unlimited loss. So in some years it made it look like he made no money. Our tax bracket was very low. And one year we got back a tax refund that was so big that we used it to put a down payment on a house. And so we moved into that house. It was a smaller and more affordable. And then we rented out our big house because, like I said, we were trying to slash expenses and really get ready to retire very early. And the house was paid for basically by our depreciation from our apartment projects. And so we were able to make some huge changes in our lives because of these tax benefits. And now that neither one of us are W-2 anymore, it doesn't really matter because all of our income is right now is passive income. And so our losses offset that income. But as we build up the active side of our business a little bit more, we can then use those passive losses to offset our active income from anything we generate, like flipping or raising capital, managing capital. So the tax benefits are enormous, and it's one of the biggest reasons to get involved in real estate and real estate businesses, because you can save so much money on your taxes you can buy a house with a refund. I mean, I had no idea that it was going to look like that when we got started. But that's one of the biggest benefits for us that we found, is just being able to not pay taxes and saving more of the money that you earn.
So for this, we would like to also point out that in our fund, a lot of different syndications, majority of them require accredited investors if they are a 506c. So this means that you're considered sophisticated. You can find investing opportunities, and also you have wealth or professional experience. And the reasoning behind this is that a lot of times we want to make sure that when you're investing in something, it's not your last dollar, right? You're not spending the last of your money and then you're going to end up broke if things don't go the way that it is projected. And a lot of times these types of deals, they have projected returns, right? But along the way, certain projects, there may be a little risk, or it might not always turn out the way that you thought. And so for you to be able to understand that is key in a lot of these bigger types of deals.
Yeah, definitely. Accredited investors are typically held to a little bit of a higher standard of educating themselves and knowing more about it, but it's really based on your wealth. And it really boils down to, if you lost the investment, would you be broke? Would somebody need to get sued? So being an accredited investor means that you not only get, you're not only having that wealth to be able to invest, but it opens up a whole field. Oh, my phone is ringing. Sorry about that. It opens up a whole field of new investments, because we can advertise investments to accredited investors. And if you're unaccredited, you cannot invest in those investments. You have to find, the non-accredited need to be able to go through other avenues that are either spread by word of mouth or actually partnering on a deal and being an active partner on it. And for most people who are busy professionals or they have careers, getting into an active side of real estate investing is really not something that they're looking to do with their time, because they have a great career where they make a lot of money, or they have a business that they're running where they're making good money, and they really just don't want to start another business or a side hustle on the side of their career. And so they're going to be looking for opportunities to be able to invest passively. And so that's really where the accredited investor comes in. Most of us are going to be qualifying in financial. Either your net worth is $1 million minus your primary home, because, you know, California real estate, right? And then income needs to be 200,000 individually, or 300,000 if you're filing jointly. So if you have a spouse who's not working and you don't quite make that 300,000 because one of you is making 200 or 250, then you kind of have to think about, okay, what are we going to do so that we can get up to that point? Should somebody be working part-time? Should we start a side hustle? And so getting into that accredited realm really opens up the types of things you can invest in. You just have more options. Now, most of the investments that are filed in the United States are actually private and could have unaccredited investors, but a lot of sponsors don't want to have unaccredited investors in their deals. So even though they could do it legally, they choose not to, because the liability of working with accredited investors only is actually a lot lower. And so even though you could find deals word of mouth and all of that, there aren't as many opportunities for unaccredited investors. So if you're close to this level, you're close to getting there, it's worth working on and creating a plan to become accredited as quickly as possible. If you are already accredited, it's just a simple thing of getting your CPA or using a third party to verify that status. They'll give you a letter, and then you can send that letter that you're qualified basically to invest in a wider variety of investments. This is a big one, because people think there's an exam or a test or a certificate or something. There really isn't. You just basically have your accountant write you a letter that you're accredited. So we wanted to share a little bit about our commercial investing experience as a team, because the main benefit of investing through a fund is that we're going to curate the best deals for you. We're going to take our experience and we're going to do due diligence on the front end to make sure that the deals that we're putting in the portal that you can choose from are the best deals that we can find, and that we are having some sort of ability to save you time by pre-vetting these deals. And we'll give you all the information that you need in order to make an investment, and call us on the phone and ask lots of questions, but relying on our experience to be able to say, hey, they know a good deal when they see one, and being able to then take the basket that we are bringing out and being able to pick from that what you want to be doing. So our experience, we have done deals together as a team before through our investing club, where we invest our own money into these projects. I think we've done 4 deals together as a group. So I've done deals with every single person on the team already. We've been working together for a year and a half already on our investing club deals. And I said, hey, I want to start a private equity fund, and I would like to work with you because we've been working together and we meshed really well. And so that's our background experience through the club. So these are 2 of our club deals. This is a large multifamily property in Florida that I think it was a $70 million purchase price, and that one's going really great. We have another one in Texas where we have had to get more hands-on because it's not going as well. And so we've been able to get more involved and talk to the general partners, because our experience in that allows us to come in and really dig into the financials and just make sure everything's going well. And so having experience on deals that are going really well, where the operators are only needing a little bit of help from us occasionally or some advice, versus a deal where we're having to get more heavily involved, that experience makes us a valuable asset because we know how to manage properties, help turn properties around, and help the operators when they need it. Some other projects that we're invested in the club is a new construction luxury short-term rental in North Carolina near Myrtle Beach. And that one is currently under construction. And so that gives us the new construction experience. I have some as well for high-rise that we did the early entitlement, permitting, or engineered drawings and original demolition. And then we sold the project at that point. So we do have new construction experience. You will be seeing a little bit of that from us, even though our bread and butter is value add, so existing buildings where we're just going to fix them up. We will occasionally bring out diversified offerings for things like new construction, or maybe something that's a different type of commercial building. This other unit that we have is in Houston, going pretty well. The sponsors seem to be doing a great job, and we just kind of keep tabs on that one. And well, I have also, I think it's important to mention that I have probably almost 200 units that we've exited from. So that's called going full cycle. So when you buy a property and you're running it, even though it's going well, you don't really know how well it's going to go until you sell it. You don't know what a property is worth until you see what people are willing to pay for it. So we had 2 buildings that we sold, our first exits, where we had an appraisal and a broker's price opinion. We put it out on the market and it just wasn't getting offers at that level. So we ended up selling it for less than we were hoping. And our returns were lower than we wanted, but we still made good returns. It just wasn't as amazing as we thought. And so learning the lessons by having a deal go from the front all the way to the sale is really important experience. And then the other deal that we exited was our high-rise development that I mentioned, where we got it just past shovel ready. We started doing the original excavations, demolition, and permits, and then we sold it to somebody who could bring the project vertical. So having some exits and having the ability to kind of see it from all angles is a really important part of the experience of the team. And it's one of the questions, the ways that we vet the operators that we are investing in their deals is, what's your track record like? How long have you been doing this? Have you been through a downturn? Have you sold anything? If so, were your projections on target or not? Did you exceed them or not? So those types of questions are really important, and that's where our experience comes in, because we know what to ask and what to look for. Right, Zasha, this is your area of expertise right here.
So I've invested or I have lent money before on my own, and so this, I have seen the returns. They're a little bit more consistent as far as debt investments. So as a fund, we decided that at least 55% of our fund is going to be leveraged towards debt investments. This helps create a lucrative stream of income. There's different types of bridge loans, construction loans, rehab loans that you can invest into, like fix and flip. So a lot of fix and flippers, especially in the single family space, will need this a certain amount of money in order to purchase the property, fix it up, and sell it. And usually it's in a shorter amount of time. So a lot of these syndications, take 3 to 5 years before you really see a bigger payout, versus debt investments, you can get it back, sometimes even in the course of 3 to 6 months. Now, the ones we are targeting are probably going to be more towards averaging about 9 to 12 months, I believe. But there's a lot of benefits in that you get consistent quarterly interest payments, and it's pretty reliable. So whenever these people are borrowing money from you, they have a schedule and an amount of the repayment that you'll be consistently getting income as well. And a lot of times it may be a little bit higher than the syndications because they're paying out in smaller increments and then have the big payout at the end versus debt investments. So the loan itself is collateralized against the property. So it's secured in the form of a mortgage note, and you're either going to be in first or second lien position, depending if they're using hard money or some sort of private money to fund a portion of it. And then the recourse is defaulting on the loan. And so typically this is what we aim for, is a 9 to 11% cash on cash return for this specific fund.
It's important, the default recourse here. That means that if somebody defaults on the loan and it's recourse, it means that we can go after their personal assets. So not just the building itself, but if for whatever reason we need to, we could need a personal guarantee, basically, that they're going to fulfill the obligations on that note. For larger loans that we're going to be doing to multifamily, let's say that they have a senior debt, they're getting a commercial loan on the building, but they need to bring in 25% or 30% of the purchase price. And so they're going to borrow a portion of that down payment from us, and then they're going to go out and raise the other part of the down payment from their investors. And so that allows us to get into larger projects that might have a little bit of a longer turnaround. And so you really get a lot of control to say, like, do I want this money back in 6 months and then I have to figure out what to do with it again? Or do I want to put it out for longer so that I don't have to think about it for a year or 2 years? And there are pros and cons to each one of those, but we're going to be able to bring out both quick debt turnarounds, because Chris and Harmony are already doing a debt fund. So they have a lot of experience with smaller single family or small multifamily portfolios. And we will be adding the value add to that as well. So just building on that experience to be able to say, hey, you have a lot of control over what you're going to invest in and how long you want that investment to be out. So the equity investment is really what we're bringing in as the smaller half of the portfolio because of the tax benefits of an equity investment. This allows you to have depreciation that passes through, and it allows you to offset any of the gains you had by basically making interest on a mortgage note. And so we'll be bringing out these as well as diversified, like I said, the bread and butter, the value add multifamily, but we will also occasionally bring you out diversified options because we want you to be able to diversify across different types of real estate between both lending and being a partner. So equity means you're a partner. You share in the profits, but you may also share in the losses, but you are definitely going to be getting some great tax benefits from that. And so we want to be able to say, hey, occasionally we'll bring you out some self-storage, some RV parks, and other types of things. And if there are things that you are interested in, like, hey, could you bring us some short-term rental stuff? Hey, could you bring us a hotel? It might be not the cornerstone of the fund, but we will be able to bring in some diversified offerings on occasion based on your feedback on what you are wanting to invest in. If there are enough of you that are interested in it, and then we can go out and network with the people that we know who are running these buildings, running these types of things, and be able to vet out great projects to be able to bring to you inside of the fund. So you really have a lot of control over the type of investment, your tax liability. We really want you to be able to get the full gamut of what's offered in benefits of commercial real estate all in one, basically one-stop shop, one portal. So I know the question that everybody's asking is, isn't the economy tanking and isn't commercial real estate basically in trouble? That's why it's such a great time to buy. I have properties that I would love to sell and redeploy that equity into another project, but now is not the time to sell. Prices are a little bit flat, transactions are way down, and so what we're on the lookout for are some distressed properties that some current owners are maybe struggling to pay a mortgage payment because they have an adjustable rate that's going up, or maybe occupancy is hurting because people are not able to find jobs, or it's in a city that was booming and now it's not. There are all sorts of reasons that somebody could be depressed in a multifamily or a commercial investment. And so we're looking for the operators who are looking for the deals. We want to buy low and sell high. And the time to buy low is when things are a little bit looking a little scary. When the news is scaring you, that's when you start thinking, okay, where are the opportunities? When there is sadly blood in the streets, you are running towards that, not away from it. So that is why we feel like commercial real estate continues to be a really great investment, because we can get some really great deals coming up. and being able to look at what's out there and reject the ones that are not good deals, but having more opportunities to get to good deals is why we're really excited over the next couple of months, because we feel like we'll be able to do some good in our sector, because people who are needing to get out of properties that are not performing and are willing to sell those to us for a bargain, everybody's being helped in that situation. And we're really excited to be investing right now. Everybody's been waiting for this downturn. Almost 12 years of a bull market, and people are like, the downturn's coming, the downturn's coming. It never was coming, and they would get ready, and it wasn't coming, and it's finally here, what we've been waiting for. So that is why we believe now is the best time to invest in commercial real estate, because it's always the best time is now, other than 20 years ago, right? It's just like planting a tree. If you didn't invest last year or the year before when things were hot, now is always the time, especially when you're in a little bit of a down market like we're going into.
And I think a lot of it too just comes down to running your numbers conservatively. Any deal can be a good deal in whatever market, as long as the numbers work. So
if you can get a great deal anywhere at any time. It's a little easier when you have some properties that are going into distress.
Right. So we just wanted to touch base too, for those who are just getting started. You might ask, okay, where does this begin? So it all begins, like we touched in the beginning, on just setting your goals. Set clear financial goals, talk with your partner or your household, and figure out, what your target income is, and then also a time frame. For me, when I was working my job, I was like, okay, I need to replace at least the income that I'm making, the $5,000 a month, and I want to do it as quickly as possible. And I had the full support of my husband as well, so that if I did get into something that didn't produce a return, then at least we'd have some sort of backing. So if that is, or even if you're single, make sure you have like a savings in place, and you're starting to invest as well, and to start to formulate those goals. Creating a budget, just making sure, like Emma said, they're living super frugal right now. Is that how you want to live forever?
No.
Probably not. Right? So you have to keep investing that money so it can keep growing to sustain yourself for the long term. Reduce your expenses like she mentioned. Even for me right now, I'm so frugal. I shop at Costco. I'm very mindful of the where my money is going, because I know at the end of the day, if it's not going towards something that's an asset or something that could possibly make me money, then it's not doing anything for me to move me closer to my goals.
Mm-hmm.
Automate your finances. There's so many apps out there nowadays, and automatic payments that you can set up to really streamline everything. Check in, with your bookkeeper or your CPA as well, if there's other things that you can be doing as far as your finances and saving. And invest wisely. Invest with operators that have experience, that you trust, that you built rapport with, because at the end of the day, you could have a great experience, but not, have that relationship or built that rapport with those people where you can't even ask them questions. I've had people come into our fund who are like, oh, well, we could never get a hold of these people. Well, in our fund, we're definitely reachable. We have a few different partners that you could talk to with different sets of experience, like Emma had explained in the beginning, and just stay continuously learning. Listen to, of course, everybody, the news is all about, drama and things happening, and there, interest rates are still rising. There's things that are happening in this economy that you have to definitely be concerned about, but it doesn't mean you stop what you're doing. You're just a little bit, like I mentioned before, conservative with what you do, and then figuring out ways to collaborate with others, especially in this commercial real estate world. There's a lot of us who partner with each other or confide in each other, or just figure out a win-win solution together. Like if somebody needs funds, we have a fund, we can do fund to funds. There's so many different ways where we can collaborate, but it all depends on the relationship that you also have with those people.
It's definitely a finance business and a people business, which is one of the things that makes it fun and challenging, is because who do you know that's good at people and finances? So it's sometimes a little bit of a tough combination. So just making sure that you have people on your side, on your investing team, who are supportive and knowledgeable is really important. And those goals, like I said, if you need help setting those goals, jump on a call with us. We're not financial advisors, but we just love helping people kind of go through their options and picking what works best for them, and so that you can feel like you're on sure footing. And so this next slide is, I don't know, maybe with that passive income on a spectrum might be the most important slide in here, because a lot of people are really struggling to figure out, where do I even start? Because do I want to invest in a business? Do I want to buy a franchise? Do I need a life insurance policy? Do I need to be looking up certain kinds of tax codes and trusts? And when do I set up an LLC? And all of these types of questions that can really bog us down and make our decision-making process a lot slower. There's no better way to learn than by doing something and getting experience. And the way that you do that in a lower risk way is to take the bucket of cash that you are going to need to retire. I just used $1 million as the example here. Due to inflation, it's now $2 million, but being able to diversify that into some different projects and taking a smaller amount of money, let's say if it's a $50,000 minimum, starting with a $50,000 minimum on one project and saying, I'm just going to put this in this project. I vetted out a team that I trust, that I want to work with, and then I will watch this investment and I will learn from it. And usually what ends up happening is you'll get your reports and things and you get busy. And so that's when we're like, jump on a call if you have any questions about what's going on, and communicate with us and we can help walk you through some of the stuff, because we know how it gets. You get it in your inbox and you're like, right? Unless you really geek out on this kind of stuff. But just being able to take a smaller amount and just put it in a project and get started, and saying to yourself, okay, maybe I want to be a limited partner and just be kind of in the background and just see how this goes. Being able to take $50,000 or $100,000 and dropping it into a bucket. And then maybe you might have a larger amount that you've set aside or you're saving up for because you want to do an active project like as a joint venture partner, and you're going to need some more cash to put in that. Maybe your bucket looks a little different because maybe you want to put some in a business. You want to invest in something that's outside of real estate. Maybe you want to make sure that your retirement account is fully funded in the stock market because you want some diversity over there. So really being able to say, like, how much money goes in each one of these buckets and what does each bucket go for? Because once you map this out, and it's fluid, it can change. You can say, I don't know what these other two buckets are for, but I definitely know I want real estate, and I definitely know I want to have commercial real estate and a couple of different commercial real estate deals so that I'm diversified within that sector. And just being able to map this out, like literally maybe draw some buckets on a piece of paper and start labeling them. You know you need roughly $1 million or $2 million at a 10% rate of return is $10,000 a month, and you multiply that by 12 months, and that's $120,000 a year. And that's most of us. That would be like a step down from what we were earning at maybe our jobs. But when you start to get into that type of return at $1 million and you just start building it from there, that's the kind of stuff that allows you to start quitting your job, maybe doing a side hustle, and it really opens up a whole world of possibilities for you. So really be looking at this bucket strategy and how you can diversify into the projects that are really the most important to you. And again, this is something that we can jump on a call and help you kind of figure out where this goes. So you make sure that you're getting started and minimizing the mistakes. Like you're like, oh, I should have started an LLC before I invested in that. It's better to catch that early on. But what's really sad is like letting those things hang you up from ever and even getting started because you're so worried about doing something wrong. You're going to invest many, many, many times. When the investment matures and it comes back to you, you have to figure out what to do with it again. You have the opportunity to continue to get better at this, and learning by experience, by taking baby steps and having small buckets to start with. It's really key to just getting in there and having those goals and working towards those goals.
So with that, this is how it works. If you are interested in our investment opportunities with Rise Capital Investments, you can schedule a new investor call using that link below, the risecapitalinvestments.co/calendar. Sign up for an investor portal. Once you do, you'll be able to see the deals we have available, select one of them, and then fund the investment. And then from there, sit back, relax, like the picture, monitor and enjoy. So, but
I want to point out the select and fund an investment. That's what makes this fund really unusual compared to maybe some other things that you've been looking at. Is a lot of times you'll be investing in what's called a blind fund. it's like a mutual fund. You put your money in, and then the fund managers decide what is going to be invested in, and they're reallocating things on your behalf. And you're basically just getting the returns that the fund is bringing back to you, and you don't really have any say or control what it goes into. But in this case, the portal that we're using will actually track if you're in one deal and not another deal, or if you have more money in this one and less money in that one. And so your returns can look dramatically different from the fund returns because you have a lot more control. We'll put deals into the portal, and we will do another webinar walking you through how that process works. And so basically you decide and make a soft commit, but then you don't fund until you see a deal on there that you really like. And so you can opt in or opt out of any deal on the portal. So it's really important to be able to kind of have a conversation with us and working with us on saying, okay, I see a deal up there, I have some questions, because having a lot of control means that you also are going to have a voice, and you need to learn about things and kind of be active on the front end of the due diligence, because it's not just like, here, just I trust you to invest this in whatever you think is a good idea. You're going to be an active partner with us in choosing the investments that go into the fund by your feedback, but also being able to choose individual investments even after we have committed and we bring them out. You can invest in it or not. So it really is a unique feature that I wanted to point out, that you want to be able to log in, have a great dashboard, and be able to monitor that and see how your deals are doing. And some are going to be doing great, and some are going to be like, but overall, it's going to be something where you can look at the overall returns of your investment basket and be able to see kind of how your money is growing over time. So I want to jump into the Q&A. I'll leave the instructions here on how to get a hold of us. That's our direct phone number. Give us a call, send us a text message, an email, or go to our website where you can read about more of what we're doing. And then we have a calendar app on there where you can schedule a call, or like I said, just shoot us a text message. We're pretty easy to get a hold of, and we think that's really important. That communication line is open, because especially if you're new to this, you want to make sure that you're having the conversations that you need to feel comfortable. So I'm going to jump over into the chat and see if we got any questions. Okay. Do people typically go with a recommended CPA from you, or will they understand all these tax deductions, or should my CPA know what to do? That is a great question. So we don't have a CPA that we particularly recommend. We all are using different CPAs actually. And when you're choosing one, I want to choose one that was recommended to me by another real estate investor, because they really need to understand real estate. The first time I went in to go hire a CPA, right when I was very first getting into investing, I think I had bought one rental house, and I was needing some help with my taxes. It had kind of gotten away from TurboTax, and I knew that I was scaling and growing, and I wanted somebody who could scale and grow with me. So I sat down, and he's telling me about write-offs and depreciations and all that, and he was giving me information that I knew in the Jobs Act of 2017 had changed a lot of the tax code and how this stuff works. And he was telling me old information. And I was just like, I don't really know that much about this, but it sounds like you don't either. And so I just thanked him for his time, and I kept looking. And so if you need help with a CPA who will understand these tax deductions, definitely find someone who is a specialist. I know that people are leaving a lot of money on the table because their accountants don't understand the tax breaks in the specialty. It's definitely something that a lot of accountants will say they can do, because most of their clients are going to have a couple rental houses, or maybe they've got an investment of something. But as you start to scale, you really want somebody who can scale along with you and give you really great advice and really scrape the barrel for the most tax savings they can possibly give you and really make it worth it. So if you need recommendations, you can ask us, but you definitely need to interview and decide who's going to be best in your situation.
And you could also ask your current CPA, what their experience in working with real estate investors or investing in real estate is, because I had a CPA that I was using who was very versed in investing, and she invested herself. So that was very helpful. She retired, and she recommended me to another guy who I'm not too happy about, but I think it's a trial and error. And with anything, it's who you feel comfortable with, because you are sharing a good amount of your finances, but to make the majority of the deductions and write-offs and depreciation that you really do want to work with someone who's already working with other real estate investors.
And that's a good point, because I like to change accountants every couple of years, because they're going to look at what the accountant from the previous years has done, and they'll get familiar with what we've got going on. But at the same time, they can file an amendment to our tax return if they're like, hey, they didn't catch this or they didn't catch that. And usually when we switch, they'll go and file an amendment for the previous year. They usually can get us even more of a refund. And then 2-3 years later, maybe they're getting too busy and they're taking too long to do our returns, and we might change again. And so keeping a fresh set of eyes on things for second and third opinions has really been working well for us. And then Troy mentions down here, I forgot about this, make sure that your tax professional is coordinating with your mortgage professional, because if you're taking a lot of tax deductions or getting those tax incentives, it may hurt your ability to be able to qualify for a mortgage for your primary home, or for maybe an investment home that you'd like to buy. And so we send our taxes to our mortgage lender every year before we file. When they send it and they're like, hey, check this over, let us know when you're ready to file, I send that to my mortgage lender, and he invariably can come back with some ways that he's like, hey, you can still get these great tax deductions here, but this will make your income look a little bit better so you can qualify for a mortgage. And so making sure that we're coordinating with whoever we're going to be using for a loan on a primary home or vacation home or something like that is really, really key, because everybody's going to have a slightly different priority. And so having your team work together, they don't even have to know each other. You just have to send them the taxes. They'll send the suggestions back, and then you send that to your accountant. They don't have to be having like a team meeting or anything, although that is really helpful when we do have coordinated teams. But make sure you're checking with your mortgage lender before you ever file taxes, because you want to be able to buy a house when you want one. All right. Oh, CPAs are like doctors. They have their specialties, and if they do extra conditioned education to stay up to date. That's true. Like that first try, he was totally out of date on the tax changes and the real estate laws. It's just like if you go to your family doctor and you need brain surgery, he's not going to do it. He's going to refer you out to a specialist. Okay, let's see. I think I missed a couple up here. Do you guys do new development as well, or only buy existing properties? Yes, we do new development, as we showed you in the portfolio. We will not be bringing out a lot of new development until we really feel like the investors are very comfortable with the sector. It has a lot more variables that you need to consider. And so I wouldn't say it's a beginner thing for an investor to do, whether you're actively developing or you're passively investing in somebody else's development. So we will be bringing out more education on new development, because we want you to feel comfortable with that as a sector. There's usually better returns in new development and higher depreciation. It's kind of like buying a new car. You drive it off the lot and the value gets cut in half. Same thing happens on a new building, or a building that you've done a lot of upgrades to, like a really major fix up. You're going to get a lot more depreciation from that, because the newer stuff depreciates faster. And so there are a lot of benefits to new development, but it's just something that you need to have an extra skill set to do. And we'll be bringing out a lot of education before we ever bring out a new development. So we are at the top of the hour at 7 o'clock. If you would like to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask a question before we wrap up, we would love to see your faces, hear your voices, and we can stay and chat for as long as you'd like to keep asking questions. Is there anybody that wants to do an unmute or raise a hand? Yeah, Troy. I see an old face in here from Texas. Ashley, it's good to see you.
You're on. Hey,
I've got my Austin t-shirt on.
It's me and Judy. Hello.
Oh, hey Judy, how you doing?
Hey. Good. How are you?
It's good to see you here.
Yeah, we wanted to check it out. Ashley's doing real estate here in the area now, and so we have a real estate bug. We want to get into stuff. So this is a little far out for us, but
working on the funds part.
We're a little behind.
Yeah, that's where the active income, where you have a side hustle or something like, the financial independence, retire early movement. Really, I really caught that bug after we left Texas, because I was like, oh, what am I going to do with the rest of my this next phase of my life, right? And just being able to say, oh, all that time when I lived in Texas and I was a photographer and I was not taking that money that I was making and investing that into rental houses, I was like, oh man, I lost so many great opportunities. I could have had rental houses like in Austin or even commercial buildings. I don't know. After I left, so many people started reaching out to me and they're like, oh yeah, we've got a development of new townhomes going up. I'm building a high rise in downtown Austin. Or they're like, yeah, I've got a net worth of $12 million. Can I sign your loan? And I'm like, I've known you for 20 years and I had no idea any of this. And so many people who are already doing this and they're just, we're not talking about it. We're talking about kids and soccer. And so we're surrounded by people who are actually doing this, and I had no clue. And most of them you actually know, so we should talk.
Yeah, for sure. If you know anybody in the area that needs a realtor, she's here.
Yeah,
we're looking to maybe start flipping some homes or something just to get us some income.
Yeah, you would definitely rock that.
Oh, it'd be fun.
Yeah.
Well, good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Okay.
Bye.
We'll talk offline.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Anybody else have any questions before we wrap it up? All right. Okay. I see a couple of people in here that I know and a couple of people in here that I don't know, but I would love to connect with you after the meeting. Go ahead and give us a call, send us an email. And we will be having our next webinar in about 2 weeks, and we'll be sending out notifications to sign up for that one as well. The next one we're going to be talking about is retirement cash flow. What do you need to retire, and how are you going to get it? Whether you want to retire in 5 years or you want to retire at 65, it's a question that everybody needs to answer. So we will see you all on the next one. Thank you so much for coming.